Hello friends, it's Luke the Gamer Duke. Today in PoE2's Early Access, I want to talk about some good habits. There are all kinds of gameplay tactics to incorporate into your playstyle, but I want to talk about a few I came across which helped me get through the campaign without smashing my brain against a wall, and even got me unstuck from a couple of areas. These habits are easy and simple to incorporate and could very well help you out on your journeys. What are these 5 easy good habits? Let's go find out. First off, I want to start with some context in stating that I am not a PoE1 master, nor am I a PoE2 master. I am not a mathematician nor a scientist. I'm just a dude who enjoys playing, dissecting, and talking about video games. And I'm simply sharing my experiences with the game thus far in hopes that others out there might find it useful. Alright, let's get into it. The first good habit to incorporate is picking up rares for disenchanting and socketed items for salvaging. I know, it sounds like a ton of work and breaks the flurry of destruction you're currently in the midst of. But the shards you receive make 2 of the more vital and also more rare orbs to come across during campaign. Disenchanting rares provides Regal Orb shards. 10 shards makes 1 orb. Regal orbs turn your magical item into a rare item, adding 1 or sometimes 2 affixes. Having a comfortable stack of Regals allows you to experiment on gear more often, which is always a good thing. Swapping out lower end 4 or 5 stat rare items with even higher end magicals can be a tough pill to swallow, but upping it to a rare with at least 1 additional stat could make it more worthwhile. You'll also be able to play around with more potential bases on your time instead of the drop chances time. The same train of thought can be applied to salvaging socketed items for Artificier shards. 10 shards make 1 orb. Artificier's orbs add 1 socket to any item in your weapon, offhand, helm, body armor, glove, or boot slots. Socketable runes can add great buffer stats such as added elemental damage or resistances, physical damage or added % armor, evasion, or shield, or added life or mana leech, which can be the difference between death and destruction or total domination. I would highly recommend salvaging sockets for shards as often as you can to take advantage of as many runes as you can. Even more so with this latest patch in which you can now replace your socketed runes with a different one. The old rune is destroyed in the process, but you'll come across plenty of replacements. You can also incorporate salvaging items with quality on them for armor scraps, blacksmith whetstones, or arcanist etchers to add quality to your own items. Though in my travels, I found quality currency was much more common to come across than socket or regal currency. So try to get in the habit of picking up items to break down for currency, as experimenting on magicals and improving rares are 2 of the best ways to improve your progression. The second easy habit to get into is picking up and keeping a small stash of rings with specific elemental resistances, which in turn can also take advantage of collecting Regal orbs. You can also hoard some armor and amulets, but rings in specific can have lightning, cold, fire, or chaos resistance as their primary stat, and the numbers can be quite solid. There are many areas and bosses who specialize in dishing out certain types of elemental damage, and in many cases, adding additional resistances beats out the life, mana, shield, or damage numbers from your best in slot trinket for that specific area or boss. None of those mods matter if you're getting nuked from elemental damage. And if you've been disenchanting rares, you'll likely also have enough Regal orbs to then turn these magical rings into rares, potentially boosting their general usefulness in elemental focused areas. Another good habit to get yourself into is always be looking for new life and mana flasks. And not just the magical ones. Pick up the normal ones to experiment with too. Even if your current flask is max rolled within its range, you can likely still improve upon it as higher flask tiers consistently appear throughout the campaign, and different affixes seem to account for different roll chances. Recovering more life and mana in ever-efficient manners is paramount in combat and boss fights. This also allows you to start keeping an array of specific flasks should you choose, like 1 for max rolled recover and 1 for recover instantly. Do note that it seems the highest roll range within that flask's tier will always come with the 15% amount recovered taken from life or mana, but another mod can be added to it. You will find many transmutation and augmentation orbs on your travels, allowing room to experiment on normal and magical items. So when you come across any flask which matches or beats the tier of your current flask, pick them up and experiment on them. What's the worst that could happen? You lose a couple magical orbs?
Oh no! Anyway,
my mercenary and monk are both using crafted flasks, as they turned out way better than any drop flask thus far. This next one requires some effort, but is something I knew I was going to have to start doing at some point, and that is reading all the tooltips. and at particular parts of the evening can become a straight-up chore. However, getting into the habit of reading the tooltips for gems, passives, and items, especially the further you go, will be a necessity to meaningfully coordinate said gems, passives, and items together to make the most out of your build as you possibly can. You can make this a bit easier on yourself by hovering over a tooltip, holding Alt to lock the window in place, then either click inside the window or click this pin icon in the top right to pin the window so you can click on its tabs or move it to a more readable location. So if you come across a perk or stat, or several, you aren't sure about, go ahead and take the minute or two to read it over and see if it can be incorporated into your build. Or maybe you'll find something you're not currently using and respec it. This last one might split some folks, as I've seen differing commentary on it. But you should absolutely get into the habit of checking your town vendors. I understand the view that vendors should not be a replacement for drops, to which I mostly agree with. Though I also do think if a game includes vendors, then you should be able to purchase meaningful items from those vendors. And this does seem to be the case. Sometimes. The current reality is you simply cannot rely on enemy and boss drops for meaningful item replacements. So a great habit to get into is checking not just the regular vendor, but also the gambler in each act as you travel. You don't need to check literally every level, but if you begin to notice a damage falloff or a piece of armor is several levels behind, give the vendors a look-see. If you've been disenchanting, you'll also have more regals to slam those magicals found from vendors. My mercenary, currently in Act 1 Cruel, has gotten better crossbows from both the vendor and gambler on more than one occasion. My monk actually gambled for a pair of quarterstaffs, one which got me from Act 3 Cruel into endgame. Throughout all the campaign, my monk never found a rare quarterstaff drop that was better than the one I crafted or gambled for. Gambled items get more expensive per your level increase, so just be wary of how much gold you're spending compared to how much gold you're collecting. But I would absolutely recommend checking the vendors when you happen to be scurrying around in your current town. And as a fun little runner-up for good habits to start getting into, is engage with the community. Chat can be a bit intimidating at times. However, more times than not, I see communication between players helping other players, either via game information, graphical issues, item vetting for current levels or areas, team-ups, or players straight up gifting other players their old weapons or armor. I didn't record my monk going through Act 1 or Act 2 Cruel, but during Act 2 Cruel, I engaged with some simple commentary on how my current rarity of 110 to 120 or so seemed to be working on drop rates, just not drops for my character, you know, per usual. And within a minute, 2 separate players reached out to gift me their old quarterstaffs. One ended up slightly better than my first gambled quarterstaff from Act 3, and the other is much better and I'm currently using it in endgame. I do have some solid potential bases, but without this quarterstaff gift I'd likely be in a somewhat rougher spot. So thank you to both of whoever you were. Generally, I'm a complete stickler when it comes to beating games via trade or purchases, as beating an area or boss with items I did not find always felt like cheating somehow. However, the combination of PoE2's brutal enemy mechanics and lack of drop rate all but had me beat a couple times. So engage with the community and global chat more often when you feel you're falling behind, stuck somewhere, or even just for commentary. You never know what useful information, items, or even players will come from it. But feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of these 5 habits? Are they good habits? Do you incorporate them into your playstyle at all? Don't forget to hit that like button to help others find this video. I also have more tips and tricks and thoughts upcoming, so remember to subscribe for more PoE2 and other ARPG gameplay analytics. If you'd like to check out my overall first impressions of PoE2, click here. Thanks for watching, commenting, and sharing, and I'll see you on the next one. Adios.